They said he was dangerous, that his silence was a kind of defiance, that the way he looked at them unblinking, calm, patient was proof enough that Earth needed correcting. He was 12. He wore a wrinkled green hoodie that didn't quite fit, and when they brought him onto the obsidian execution platform, bound by shimmering neural cuffs, he didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just looked at the crowd of thousands aliens of every rank and caste and tilted his head slightly, as if trying to understand why this circus needed a front row. The Grand Executor of the Galactic Tribunal, a slug-shaped official in ceremonial armor, cleared his throat through a translator collar. By decree of a unified empire, this human child is to be made an example of, for inciting insurrection, for distributing illegal Earth media across neutral worlds, and for the final charge, symbolic treason. He paused. Earth will not go unpunished for poisoning the stars with its culture. Behind him, holographic screens lit up across 3 systems. Every Empire world tuned in. This wasn't just a site, it was broadcast theater. The boy looked up, quietly. The camera zoomed closer. He had freckles, just a few, and a scar on his eyebrow, like he'd fallen off a bike once, and no one stitched it up right. He didn't blink as they read out his sentence. His breathing was even. Eyes steady. One alien leaned forward and whispered, "Why isn't he afraid?" The executor's voice trembled not with fear, but something colder, resentment. "Do you have anything to say before your termination is carried out?" The boy opened his mouth, then closed it. A long silence followed. His lips moved, barely audible. The camera feed amplified it for all to hear. "He's watching." That was all. The executor signaled to proceed. The energy lances were activated. 2 shimmering blue bolts crossed through the small frame of a boy who did not move, did not beg, did not flinch. He fell without sound. Across the Empire, millions watched, some with satisfaction, others with discomfort. A few tried to justify it. The stream ended, but the boy's words hung there, floating, breathing. He's watching. 3 hours later, on a scrap-dust moon orbiting Jupiter, a tall man stood in silence as a storm began to roll in. His face was hard, but not cruel. Weathered. Pale scars latticed his arms. He wore a torn work vest over an old American t-shirt that read, "I fix things that break." The letters were faded. A small AI assistant hovered nearby, projecting blue diagnostics from the scrapyard's aging power core. "Sir, incoming message flag from Priority Channel. It includes a visual feed. Would you like to play it?" he said, voice gravel and ash. The image flickered. The tribunal feed replayed. Every second, the sentence, the words, the lances, the fall, the silence afterward. He didn't blink. When it ended, the man walked over to a rusted container half buried under lunar soil. He pressed a series of code, locks biometric, retinal, and a final voice print. Codename Firewood. The vault hissed open. Inside were no guns, no explosives, just a black case, unmarked. Inside that, a single folded coat, charcoal gray, and a series of etched dog tags. One was smaller, a child's. The back read, "You make me brave, Dad, Milo." He ran a calloused hand over the tag. The AI hovered close. "Sir, given this incident, shall I notify the others? Is this the signal?" He didn't respond. Instead, he walked back to the center of the yard, where a rusted wind chime still turned slowly from Earth's last winter. He stared out into the dark, stars blinking dimly above the scarred sky. "He's watching," the boy had said. The man cracked his knuckles, then his neck, then turned and walked toward a reinforced room labeled Containment Storage, Do Not Open. Inside, an old locker. Inside that, a relic of a past not found in Empire records. One built in the fires of Chechnya, baptized in the forests of Chernobyl, tested in covert wars no alien had heard of. A war vest, a blade with the inscription in Russian, "If I return, it was worth it." The AI hovered again. "Confirm mission status?" He paused. "Funeral," he said. "Prepare the ship." On a glittering moon within the Imperial Core worlds, the tribunal members gathered for dinner. Their palates, though alien, craved opulence, hovering delicacies, sentient drinks that flirted back, soundless orchestras made of bioprinted bones. The slimiest of them, Admiral Furin, commander of the Northern Suppression Fleet, lifted a glass and chuckled. To Earth. May its last gasp be broadcast in 4K. Still think that was a child? Another slithered. It's hard to tell with humans. They're primitive, wild, emotional, a third added, sighing. They make such drama over offspring. One would think they multiply like spores. A junior analyst, half crustacean, half intern, tentatively raised a pincer. Forgive me, counsel, but about the phrase he said. He's watching. Do we know who? It's nothing. The Admiral waved him off. Earth babble. Probably some deity. No deity on Earth is that quiet, someone muttered. No one laughed. Somewhere in the outer rings, a listening station received an odd ping. A sequence of Earth origin coordinates. But the protocol was old. Ancient, even. Buried under layers of declassified war files. The AI tried to translate the signal and got only one result. Yaga protocol. Burial unnecessary. Fire required. Before it could flag it as a threat, the station lost power. For 3 whole seconds. When the lights came back, every soldier in the station had their bootlaces tied together. No alarms triggered. No cameras caught anything. In the corner, scribbled in chalk on the whole wall, "You took the wrong child." Back in the tribunal's central tower, the executor poured himself a shimmering drink from the gravity-fed carafe. He'd executed hundreds. No one had stared like that boy. Like he was measuring something. Not begging. Measuring. He took a sip. Behind him, the lights dimmed for a moment. Barely a flicker. He glanced around. "Lights," he muttered. Nothing happened. The glass in his hand trembled. But it wasn't fear. Not yet. Not really. It was the realization that somewhere beyond the stars, beyond the comfortable borders of HFY story, had been set in motion. And it wasn't theirs to control anymore. In a quiet room, on a forgotten moon, a man known in Earth legend only by a name that was never his own, buckled the last strap of a black combat boot, exhaled once, and whispered, "I'm coming, Milo." And across the stars, the darkness blinked. The war room inside the Galactic Empire's central citadel was the size of a small moon. Holographic maps floated in shifting layers above the obsidian table. But none of them could explain the silences. Not silence on their end, no. The Empire was loud as ever. But out there, among the outer systems and mining colonies, something had gone quiet. 2 patrol units lost contact near the Helix Drift, said Grand Strategist Valharn. A pale-skinned, 4-jointed insectoid with eyes like murky crystal. No distress calls. No flares. Just off the grid. One of the advisors flicked a tongue. "Pirates." "Unlikely," Valharn answered. "The Black Moss Syndicate doesn't leave boot prints." There was a pause. It rippled through the chamber like static. Boot prints. The word was foreign in this room. Alien. Small. Human. Size 11, Valharn said softly. Earth standard. Snickering broke the tension. One senator slapped a tendril against the table. "You mean to say a Humana, single, 1 disabled, 2 full patrol ships? What did he use? An Earth shovel." "Actually," another said, pulling up a security feed, "we found something lodged in the captain's chest on the 2nd cruiser. A small item." The image blinked in, a number 2 pencil, sharpened to a needlepoint. Several aliens recoiled. "Primitive," muttered one. "And poetic." The strategist cleared his throat. "This may relate to the boy." Everyone froze, even the laughers. "The one we executed?" asked a robed advisor, uneasy. "He was just a child, a mouthpiece for Earth's vulgar culture." Valharn tapped a key, and a screen lit up behind him. A human man stood alone on a destroyed battlefield. No explosions, no wounds. Just one man in a black coat, walking among alien wreckage. No weapon visible. The timestamp? 3 hours after the boys broadcasted death. Satellite caught one image before it burned out, Valharn said. All other feeds fried. No interference. Just heat. An intern spoke without permission. "Sir, there's something weird in the metadata." Everyone turned. The image file had text embedded, hidden in the compression layer. He tapped a few keys. The lights dimmed. A phrase shimmered across the air, flickering. "I am Legend's parent." No one laughed. In an office that smelled of ozone and old triumphs, Lord Marshal Graven tapped his claw against the desk. What is a Baba Yaga? A pair of data interpreters, one plant-based, one reptilian blinked. We ran inquiries through the Terran cultural banks. The terms conflicted. Graven raised a brow. Sir, some Earth records classify it as a mythical witch who lives in a chicken-legged hut in Eastern Europe. Others connect it to a Black Ops assassin prototype from the late 20th century. And some fan pages say it's the name of a gardening blog. Graven stared. It's all folklore, sir. Messy, inconsistent. Humans have no universal myth catalog. They invent and contradict freely. So, you telling me this Baba Yaga is what? A children's story? The plant-based analyst trembled. Yes, and also possibly the most dangerous covert operative Earth ever produced. Graven stood slowly. Those two things should not overlap. But they often do with humans, sir. The council gathered for emergency deliberation. 2 hours into the session, an overconfident Senator Grith sneered. I refuse to fear bedtime tales from a race that used duct tape to repair space stations. The others chuckled, albeit nervously. Graven nodded. Good. You'll be our first volunteer. Volunteer? To test the theory, Graven said. We're sending you to Helix Drift. You'll speak to this myth. If it bleeds, it negotiates. 3 hours later, Grith's ship was returned empty. The only thing inside was a small pile of shredded treaties, a can of root beer, and a sticky note that read, "He bled. Once. In 1983. Meanwhile, Earth's official diplomatic channels were silent. No protest, no threats, not even a memorial transmission. It unsettled the Empire far more than outrage would have. When humanity doesn't speak, the universe gets nervous. Because humans have only ever been silent for two reasons: heartbreak and planning. The Empire combed deeper through Earth's digital wreckage. They unearthed redacted CIA files from the Cold War, blackbarred mission reports, folklore podcasts, and Mimisol referencing Baba Yaga. Some entries described him as a ghost, others as a widower who made death personal. One file, translated from Russian and scribbled in the margin, simply said, "He doesn't knock. He's already inside." Empire analysts debated. Was this a psyop? A bluff? Then a third surveillance hub went dark. Same pattern. No bodies. No debris. Just the scent of cigarette smoke and a vinyl record still spinning, needles stuck on the phrase, "Ain't no sunshine when he's gone." Desperation crept into command. So the Empire hired private bounty squad's alien mercenaries, half drunk on reputation. They bragged in local bars, wore Baba Buster jackets, and took selfies with their weapon loadouts. 3 of the squad streamed their missions live. The last message received from the final team was audio only. A single whisper. He was whistling, before it started. Then silence. When scouts returned to their last location, all they found were boots. 7 pairs, lined neatly. No blood. Just one message, burned into the wall. "You're making this personal." I already was. Back at Empire Command, Graven stood before the council and said, "Gentlemen, I believe we are no longer in control of the narrative." He pressed a button. Footage played from a fringe merchant station. It showed a massive, slow-moving freighter entering the system. Unauthorized. Silent. ID tags burned off. It docked without clearance. No one stopped it. A single man stepped off. Tall. Quiet. No armor. No entourage. Just a coat, a duffel bag, and a face no one had ever truly seen before, except perhaps in myths, dreams, or Earth war files too dangerous to upload. The station's defense system did not engage. Every camera shut down within 12 seconds. But a single janitor survived. She uploaded a voice memo before collapsing for what the autopsy called adrenaline-induced organ failure. Her final words? His eyes didn't blink. He asked where the Emperor would be. Then he smiled. I think the smile was the worst part. Valharn called for evacuation drills. Backup plans. Relocation. Some mocked him. Others didn't. "Why are you so afraid?" one commander asked. Valharn responded slowly. "Because I once fought in the Iron War of Sector 9. I watched a man in a blood-soaked coat dismantle a battalion with a fork. I thought it was legend. Are you saying that, man? I'm saying the boy was not just a boy. He was his. And in the eyes of the human mythos, that makes him sacred. You took sacred from a species that believes in revenge poetry and vengeful dads in action movies. No one had a rebuttal. Across the empire, paranoia bloomed. Doors were reinforced. Civilians whispered rumors. Some alien parents told their children not to speak of the execution anymore. It's just a tale, they insisted. A human ghost. A fearmonger's lie. But stories don't need truth to be powerful. They only need fear. And in the hearts of those who'd watched the boy die, a strange ache began to form. Because deep down, they'd seen something in his silence. Not surrender. Not fear. Just promise. A quiet, terrifying promise. He was just a boy. But his father? His father was the one thing the Empire didn't prepare for. A myth with a reason to come home. The dossier was labeled Project, Yaga thick with redactions, smudged fingerprints, and a warning on the cover that read, Classified, not for mythological cross-reference. It sat unopened for decades in the archive vault of the Galactic Human Affairs Division, sealed under the assumption that humans had finally civilized. Then the boy died, and someone, somewhere, broke the seal. Inside were only 6 pages. 6. No biometrics. No confirmed origin. No listed age. Just a series of incident logs, each signed by officials who'd either disappeared, defected, or been declared mentally unstable. The first log dated back to 1986. Ukraine. A classified Soviet program listed as urban folklore weaponization. The page was mostly censored, but one line was left unredacted. He doesn't arrive. He appears. The next log, 1991, Langley. Subject is not military, not civilian, not explainable. DNA suggests human. Behavior does not. Third log, 2005, Baghdad. 3 words spoken in Arabic by a local after the compound exploded from the inside out. The father came. The final page simply had a photo. A blurry figure walking away from a smoldering embassy, carrying a child on his back. In the smoke behind them, a phrase was burned into the wall in Old Cyrillic. Not a name, a warning. High Lord strategist Mrovan studied the file with a mixture of irritation and disbelief. Humans, he growled, they turn everything into legend. Even their janitors have origin stories. He slammed the folder shut and barked at his aides. I want his real name, his birth record, his species, his function. An AI assistant floated into the room, nervous despite its programming. Sir, we ran every known Earth registry, every genetic database from pre- and post-galactic contact. There's no matching record, not even a missing persons report connected to the boy. What about facial recognition? The AI hesitated. We found something. Old security camera footage from a 1994 convenience store robbery in rural Nevada. A man matching 94% of his facial structure neutralized 4 armed robbers using canned soup and an umbrella. No identification. Mrovan narrowed his eyes. How is he still alive? Sir, we don't know if he's still alive. It's unclear he was ever just alive to begin with. He stared at the blank wall. So the boy's father doesn't exist in any formal system. The AI pulsed softly. He exists in one, sir. Where? The screen blinked. The words appeared. In the nightmares of monsters. Meanwhile, a squadron of elite Empire tacticians, Zenth grade, assassins prepared to intercept the myth. Or man. Or whatever he was. They called themselves the 13 Shadows. They had never failed a mission. Until now, their greatest worry was which victory wine to open. They laughed as they loaded plasma daggers and neural detonators. One Terran myth? We put down war gods. They tracked him to an abandoned orbital prison long since gutted by fire. No signs of life. Thermal reads showed nothing but cold steel. Until the lights went out. Each of the 13 wore augmented sight, adrenaline boosters, combat nerves braided with triple logic. None of them made it out. The only record was a last frame from one of their chest cam static, then a single phrase scratched into their helmet lens from the inside. You chose this. The Empire stopped laughing. Back on Earth, in a bunker so old it was partially fossilized, a retired intelligence officer dusted off a VHS tape. Handwritten on the label, "If he ever reactivates." He inserted it. The tape flickered. A younger version of himself spoke directly to the camera. "If you're seeing this, it means the child is dead, and the father's no longer sleeping." He exhaled. "I know you want a name, but the truth is we never had it. He gave us one name once. Just once." The screen fuzzed, then cleared. The image was static heavy, but his voice was clear. "Call me Dad. That's all that matters now." Inside Empire Command, emergency powers were activated. But panic rarely leads to clarity. Someone suggested cloning. Others called for psychic assassins. One senator even proposed weaponizing nostalgia-sending fleets loaded with Earth music to destabilize his mental state. A junior strategist asked a quiet question. Why not apologize? The room fell silent. A laughterless kind. "We executed his child on a live feed," said Commander Yelax. "We celebrated it." The strategist nodded. "Yes, and then we went back to our dinners." She tapped her claw against the table. "Now he's having his." Another outpost vanished. This one wasn't bombed, wasn't burned, just rearranged. The building stood, the lights still on, but the base layout was now in the shape of a giant letter. M. A message. 3 hours later, a transmission came through. The signal was old, analog. Scratched vinyl played under the words. A human voice spoke, not Baba Yaga's. A woman's. Calm, soft. "You took from the wrong man. He was never a name. He was every reason a man would go quiet for 20 years. You thought a human father would forget, would weep, would move on." She paused. "You don't understand what Earth does with grief." In a hallway lined with medals and regrets, Graven met with Valharn once more. "We don't need to kill him," Graven said. "We need to contain him." Valharn turned, face pale. "You think this is about vengeance?" Graven hesitated. Valharn continued. "That boy was all he had left. You didn't kill a child. You removed the last thread tying him to peace." Graven's voice dropped. "But that wasn't even his real name." "No," Valharn agreed, "because his real name is the one no one survives to say out loud." Somewhere on the edge of the Empire's last confident border, a single escape pod drifted into a transport lane. Inside, an alien diplomat, bloodied, trembling, eyes wide. A patrol ship retrieved him. He had only one message, one sentence, repeated over and over. "He's not a man. He's what comes from men." That night, across 50 systems, every Empire propaganda poster that once read, "Humanity is contained," was found altered. Not torn, not graffitied, rewritten. Humanity was polite. Then you made him a father again. The real name didn't matter anymore. The myth had moved, and his next stop was the throne. In the cold silence between systems, where starlight broke like glass across ion trails, the Empire's last stronghold drifted above the scorched world of Atraxis Prime. It was a citadel that had never bowed, never retreated. It held the weight of millennia and the ego of eternity. Inside, the throne room hummed with a stillness unfamiliar to its occupants, one not of peace, but anticipation. It was the kind of quiet that comes before the avalanche, when even sound knows to hold its breath. 1,000 dignitaries stood flanked by armor, trembling in the shadows of golden banners. The Grand Executor adjusted his collar as the tribunal's high voice addressed the crowd. "We are the light," he said in the ritual tongue. "We are the spine of order, the architects of peace." He paused. "And we are not afraid of a man." No one clapped. Far below the citadel, in orbit over the ruined city where the boy's last Earth drawings had been torched by military drones, a freighter approached. Unregistered, silent. Command attempted contact. It ignored them. Missile defenses armed themselves automatically. The first 10 missiles fired. All 10 vanished mid-flight. Not detonated. Not deflected. Vanished blinked from existence. Then the screens across the citadel lit up with a simple message. "This is not vengeance. This is the burial." The freighter docked. One man exited. He wore no insignia, no armor, no visible weapons. Just a coat and a shadow that walked 2 paces behind him, even where there was no light. Cameras tracked his entrance. The footage scrambled. AI systems short-circuited. He passed through 32 corridors, 43 guards, and 7 biometric locks without a sound. Where alarms should have screamed, instead a soft tune played. Earth music, 1981, The Sound of Silence. He entered the War Council chamber. No one dare move. Baba Yaga looked at the mural painted across the Domia victory mosaic of the Empire's triumph over early human rebellions. He said nothing. He simply drew a small object from his pocket. A toy. Cheap. Plastic. A green triceratops with a missing horn. He placed it on the central command table, beside a map of Empire holdings. "This belonged to my son," he said. "You took it with his blood." The room held still, paralyzed. One general reached for a sidearm. Baba Yaga turned his head slightly. The general's weapon turned to ash in his hand. The voice that followed was not angry, not loud. It was calm. Final. He had 12 years. You streamed his death like a show. He stepped forward. "So now I stream yours." The lights in the room dimmed. The walls shook not from weapons, but from data, from the overload of hacked frequencies, from the raw, unfiltered broadcast of the truth. Every corrupted file, every sterilized record of border skirmishes, every silenced colony. Unlocked, unleashed. The galaxy watched. They watched the face of the Empire blink, stammer, crack. And they watched the man who made no demands, issued no speeches, and wore no emblem bring it all to its knees. Above the citadel, a storm began to form in Spacea, strange ripple, almost biological, like grief itself had grown wings. Down on the planet's surface, the old cities ignited, one by one. Not from orbital strikes, but from within. From humans who had lived in silence for years, smiling at their captors, learning their systems, biding time. The children of Earth had learned not to speak. Now they sang. A resistance song passed down in whispers, built from ashes. It echoed in every city, every corridor. And still Baba Yaga walked. He passed a hallway of royal guards, who didn't even raise their weapons. Their hands shook too much. One dropped his rifle and simply knelt. "Please," he whispered. "You don't have to." "I know," Baba Yaga replied. "That's why I'm here." He reached the throne of Empire. The Emperor stood, 9 feet tall, covered in living armor, flanked by psionic dread mages whose minds had fractured solar alliances. "I see," said the Emperor. "You come to die with your legend." Baba Yaga's eyes, storm gray and tired, stared back. "I came to bury my boy. Everything after is just tradition." The Emperor roared and launched forward, faster than sound, faster than light, but not faster than grief. The blade that met him was not forged in a foundry. It had no edge. It was edge, a concept honed in silence for 12 years and sharpened by every second of withheld fury. In the span of a breath, the Emperor fell. Not exploded, not dismembered, just gone, like he had never been real to begin with. The psionic guards tried next. But grief eats thoughts for breakfast. They collapsed mid-attack, their minds filled with the boy's last breath, looping on repeat. He's watching. He's watching. He's watching. It took 27 minutes for the Empire's entire command hierarchy to disintegrate. Not because Baba Yaga hunted them, but because they turned on each other trying to escape him. And he simply walked. In the halls of power, he planted small things. A crayon drawing. A bedtime book. A photograph of a boy holding a slingshot. The message was clear. This isn't about revenge. This is about remembering. When the citadel finally cracked, the explosion was not caused by thermonuclear cores or hacked reactors. It was the weight of a myth pushing back against a lie too large to hold. From orbit, it looked like a dying star exhaling. From the surface, the sky bled gold. Across the galaxy, Empire flags were pulled down. Not in revolt, but in release. As if everyone had just remembered who they were before obedience. Somewhere, on a forgotten moon, a mother told her child the story of the man with no name. The one who wore silence like armor and carried pain like a passport. The child asked, did he win? The mother smiled sadly. He didn't come to win. He came to say goodbye. The stars shifted that night. not physically, but in stories, in tone, in legacy. From that day forward, no empire dared broadcast death as entertainment. No tribunal held a child responsible for their father's fears. And no Onino one used the phrase, just a human again. As for Baba Yaga, he left no trace, no tomb, no ship trail, only the toy Triceratops, resting alone in the ruins of a throne, still missing one horn, still waiting for home.